So this video is to promote use of cash. Use cash, it's really important. So when thinking about the 2020 pandemic, one of the first things we heard from the UK government was, please use contactless payment whenever possible. And people listened, myself included. I'm finding myself using my contactless payment card more than ever. And people were using these cards quite a lot anyway. Interestingly enough, I think it presents the idea that cash is a dirty thing, particularly coins. You think that all of those coins have passed through people's hands, and it's quite an unsanitary and unnecessary thing to consider. The World Health Organization hasn't actually advised against using cash. Now, you should always do your own research, but I found this really interesting. They do advise you to wash your hands after using cash, and of course here in the UK there's lots of hand sanitizer available, and you would be able to simply use your cash and wash your hands straight away. We've already started to see that contactless payments are becoming enforced and mandatory, and cash payments are being rejected or not accepted. And who is this going to affect? It's the 1.2 million people in the UK that don't have a bank account. Now, there's numerous reasons why people may not have a bank account. Number one being that they perhaps don't have a permanent address. Number two is those folks that maybe have such a poor credit rating that they're not able to open any more bank accounts. For folks living in remote locations, things are getting even more tricky because they're not able to access a cash point that's nearby, and we're even seeing churches opening up their doors and providing services for people to access cash because banks are simply closing down their local cash points, their local branches, and that's making it more difficult for people to access the cash, whether that's a bank or a post office. And people need cash when they want to spend money. A good example of this is a family member of mine. So they like to go down to the Wetherspoons, and of course with the corona, Wetherspoons have been doing a very interesting job of providing this Wetherspoons app. So you can order everything on the app and it can come to your table and you minimize contact with people. Happy days. But what about those people that don't have an app? And this particular family member was lost. They didn't know what to do, and they had to go to the staff and say, well, what am I going to do when these new regulations come in? I'm not able to pay on card. I don't want to pay through the app. Can I still use cash? And then the staff member said, well, we're going to have to talk about head office about how this is going to work out. So it starts to affect people in a way which perhaps we don't appreciate. When we're used to tapping our cards and taking that for granted, it doesn't come necessarily as easily to everyone else. So this isn't only a problem in the rural areas but the big cities too. So here in London I do have a cash machine that's round the corner, but it charges me £2.50 for the privilege of withdrawing cash, and being the frugal type of person I am, a personal finance person, I of course don't withdraw any money from this cash point. So I have to go further, much further down the road to my post office, which thankfully still has a working cash point. But you know, I think back to 2-3 years ago, I had many more options about where I was going to draw that cash out. So I'm a big fan of Fintech in general and always looking out for the latest financial technology. And with these apps and banks, you can see the breakdown of your spending, see where you're spending money, and it's really helpful for your budgeting. But can that sometimes become dangerous? Well, yes, simply the bank has information to every single thing that you spend money on. If you're constantly spending money on this contactless payment, they can track when you go to the shop, where you go to the shop, whether you're likely to spend that money, how much you spend from day to day, whether it's less than last year, whether it's more than last year. They have access to that data more than we realize perhaps, and the removal of cash means that the banks have complete and utter control and view of your finances, of where you spend every single penny. And when I start to think about that and watching shows like The Social Dilemma, where you start to realize that these companies do have an impact on what you purchase, where you spend your money, for example, you start to realize that the demise of cash can be a really dangerous thing. So encouragement to you, take out some cash this week and start spending with cash, because it's a great tool as well for personal finance pursuers. We have the cash envelope system, for example. That cold hard cash in your hand feels very real, and it's easy to tap 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 on that contactless payment and not realize what you're spending. If your bank were to freeze your account, you would immediately lose access to your money. I often think about this as well. If I were to lose my phone and my wallet, what would I do? I don't really keep cash to hand, which I should, and cash is always there in an emergency when technology fails. I've had several experiences of that when both Starling and Monzo are having technical glitches and you're not able to spend on your card. And there's going to be always examples when this happens, and if we have cold hard cash in our hand, we just go in and we pay. The percentage of all payments made using banknotes and coins fell by 23% in 2019, according to the trade body UK Finance, and that's down 48% as recently as 2014. So these are seismic changes, aren't they? Really, really huge changes. And funnily enough, when I go to Germany has a really strong cash culture still, and it's a bit of a shock to the system going from the UK to Germany, because you realise that you can't do the tap tap tap. Perhaps this is a bit too far to the other extreme. So the encouragement from this video is to start using cash again, and think about memories which you have of using cash and receiving cash. So whether that's childhood birthdays, do you remember opening the card and receiving a £10 note or a £20 note, and you got to see and feel and touch the money? I mean, that made my birthday, to have a £10 note. Oh, to feel it, to touch it, amazing. And it's not going to feel the same as if they transfer it to you by backs. It's the same for the tooth fairy. You know, those memories of going to sleep and waking up to that £1 coin. It's really exciting stuff. And also, you know, those memories of visiting your grandpa or your grandmother and them slipping you a £5 note just before they leave. All of these things are going to be totally lost if we start to use our cards constantly, because it will obliterate the use of cash. So start to use cash a little bit more. It's important that we take this seriously because we still need cash in the society. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and thank you for tuning into this video. See you next time. Ciao.